I recently shared an audit video, and this is actually the whole segment. I hope you enjoy. I want to open up with the Constitution. The First Amendment: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Let's just start with that. So recently I just shared a video with you all, sharing how I challenged the system, simply by asking questions and writing a letter. Similar to what I do on this channel, I'm attacked by a lot of different people for simply asking questions. And if we can't get logical answers to these questions, we should have no shame in asking more, until everything falls apart. And recently, in that video, somebody shared a comment with me on these various audit channels. This one that I'm watching here is called Long Island Audit. And there's several different ones. Audit this and audit that. And all pretty much doing the same thing. Some people doing it better than others. I think this channel does a really good job. And in short, what they are doing is auditing the system. And in almost every instance, the system is failing miserably. And the idea is you start off with something that you're lawfully allowed to do, such as filming in a post office, or a library, or a city hall, or any other public government space. And in this case, every post office actually has it posted. I'm sure you can recall walking into a post office and seeing a bunch of posters. And one of these posters is titled Poster 7. And Poster 7 clearly states that you're allowed to take photographs in the post office. In fact, right in this lobby where these people are standing. There's only about 12 rules on this poster. And photographing is one of them, which is allowed. And more importantly, the First Amendment gives the rights to film. This is the freedom of press. And most people think this is exclusive to some corporations. But no, freedom of press is granted to all the people. That's why it's in the First Amendment. It is a right of the people, not a right of the press. Freedom of the press is a right of all the people. And when these different channels walk into these public buildings, which are owned by the taxpayers, hence why they are public and not private, they are always met with the same hostility. First, the hostility comes from the patrons playing the role of the Karen, and then it comes from the employees. And nobody even realizes that it's posted in the lobby that you're allowed to film. And what do these people think? There's cameras all over this building. And yet when somebody raises a camera, people quickly take offense. Now, if this happened in Disneyland, nobody would be offended. Or if it happened at the Grand Canyon. Now, Disneyland is a private park. And even though people are filming all over the place, nobody seems to care. And they would never kick you out for filming. But for some reason, these servants of the public are under the impression that no cameras are allowed in this non-private space, in the people's space, the public. And so initially, these clearly staged situations begin by exercising a right that is absolutely certain and posted in the building. And many people employees and customers usually lose their cool and show their ignorance before the police are called. And this presents the second part of these videos, or the second audit. The audit on the stormtroopers. And they roll in hot and heavy. And if it wasn't for the camera recording them, might just start slamming people to the ground. And this is what makes these audit channels better or worse from one another, is their ability to stay cool themselves, knowing that they are absolutely within the lawful parameters of their rights. And it's pretty unbelievable. Anywhere from 5 to 10 officers called out for each incident. Much hostility, supervisors called in, postal enforcement, and every other agency they can muster up. And typically these videos end with all these public servants being humiliated and walking away a little wiser, I like to think. And I think what these channels are doing is absolutely important. Keeping the public servants honest, and at the very least, documenting the ones that are not, and cleaning up house a little bit. And I would like to see everybody as informed as these channels performing these audits. And this is actually the best show I've seen in a while. Kind of like watching Cops, but with the roles reversed. And this particular story ended well. These two cops were actually pretty cool in the end. Because that's what truth does. Truth brings people together. And before this incident, everybody was acting on assumptions and lies, which absolutely created division. And this is the kind of stuff I'm always talking about. How there is hope. With knowledge, we can't be intimidated. With knowledge and truth, we have power. And here's another good channel I just found. Seen here. Excellent, very professional channel showcasing what I will call civil auditors. And this is interesting in his disclaimer. None of our videos should be considered a call to action. And this kind of tells me what they're worried about with anything spoken of on this platform. One of my recent uploads on my off-topic channel was deemed rated R. I've never seen a rated R on this platform before, and right away people started telling me you need to sign in and verify your age before watching this video. And the video has hardly got any views. It's clearly being suppressed. And honestly, I think I was very fair and honest. The video shows no violence, uses no offensive language, and yet this is rated R. Worse is shown on the evening news. And here's a particular case. This is a case where a psycho person called in a neighbor and lied and said that she was punched. Even though she's clearly psycho, the police take her side before even speaking to the neighbor. The woman is so psycho that she's making threats to this neighbor while speaking to the officers. And rather than taking all these cues and investigating as they're supposed to do, they storm over to the neighbor's house, who is an elderly 75-year-old man. He opens the door with a knife, not knowing who is at the door. When he sees it's police officers, he puts it up here on the shelf, clearly on the body camera. Returns to the door, and within moments is tased by these officers, kicked and pushed to the ground, and further suffers an injury to his head, and becomes disabled, and is ultimately proven innocent. Within 48 hours, he suffered a stroke and is now on some kind of disability, as seen here. The officer has been fired, as seen here, and the female officer continues to walk free. And this channel, as seen here, is very clear that these overseers are not our friends. And I consider this a very educational movement, though this is not a call to action, but it should be. And I don't think we need to do anything other than know our rights and the law, and I think we can turn this whole tyrannical system into something that actually serves the people. And knowledge is true power, not the flashing of pistols and badges and false authority. And I must admit I am completely obsessed with these auditing channels. I thank you for sharing this with me, whoever you were, I forget now. And before I started binging on these audit channels, somebody suggested I watch this series called Spellbinder out of Australia, and I watched the whole season 1, completely obsessed. I feel like the first season of any show has all the good juice in it, and then there reaches a point where the characters just piss you off, and you realize they've run out of juice, or at least the writers of the show. And perhaps there was more, but at least the first 17 episodes seem to be relating to the things we talk about, at least on my main channel, in the use of Antiquitech, the old world, and everything else. And I'd love to do a more in-depth summary of the show, but I'll just leave it here for now. I really love freedom. I appreciate that this man is allowed to sleep in front of the laundromat. Nobody has bothered him. I wasn't worried about him. I could hear him snoring. But before long, somebody must have been concerned and pulled over here and went to check on him. He offers him a banana, and the man kind of growls back at him, indicating that he would not like to be disturbed. The man decides to leave the banana on his backpack and walks away with the second banana. I think there's two great tragedies in our world, and one is that we are all born homeless, no rights to the very land in which we dwell. And number two is the great taxation and theft of the people. And between these two, we are totally living out of sync and balance, forced into a slave system. And the man returned. This time I thought he was going to leave him some money. Not that the banana wasn't enough. This time with a phone. I was worried he was going to call the police. But the next morning, the man was still there. In fact, he was singing from the top of his lungs. Only 2 nights prior, he fell asleep in the park and slept in the next morning, despite there being a wedding in the very same park. And for today, I send my love to all of you.